Welcome to the Unplayable Podcast, a rapid recap of the World Test Championship final. Josh on a finger here in Australia. Going to be joined in a second by Jack Paynter, who's been at Lord's all of day one. But first, a quick recap of the scores. I'm sure you've checked the CA Live app, but just in case you haven't, South Africa won the toss and chose to bowl first. Australia were then all out for 212. The Proteas would have been happy with that, but by stumps, they'd found themselves 443. Mitchell Starc took a couple of wickets. Jack, how was day one? And I want to get straight into it. We're going to sort of be talking about this match in a couple of little subheadings. I'm going to get you to start with what was the moment of the day?
Well, Josh, hello. Good morning to you. And I think the moment of the day was Mitchell Starc's first over wicket of Aiden Markram. So often we've seen Mitchell Starc strike in the first over, and when Australia needed it again after being bowled out for 212 on a pitch that it looks a good batting surface. Doesn't look like a 212 wicket. Australia needed some early momentum, and Mitch Starc delivered again in the first over. He could have quite easily had a couple of wickets. Well, he could have had Markram out a couple of times in that first over, but finally got him on the final ball where he chopped down onto the stumps, and Australia had the dream start that they were after.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so if we look back at Australia's innings, who was the standout there?
Well, standout was there's two good knocks. Steve Smith and Bo Webster both scored half centuries, but I think the real game changing moment was Steve Smith's knock. Australia were in pretty big trouble at lunch at 4 for 67. They'd just lost Travis Head, unfortunately down the leg side, who was the hero from the last World Test Championship final on that opening day. So they needed someone to sort of rest back the momentum, and that was Steve Smith after lunch. He took 11 runs off Rabada's first over, the second after lunch, and sort of got the innings moving, and that allowed Webster, who had a bit of a shaky start. I think for his first 30-odd balls, he might have played and missed and inside edged about half of them, but that sort of relieved the pressure off Webster a little bit, and then he was able to get into his groove. And Aussie fans who saw his couple of knocks against India at Sydney, and then his Sheffield Shield form over the last 2 or 3 years, can see how destructive Webster was, and he was able to get into that sort of mode again here at Lord's after overcoming that a little bit of a dicey start.
Yeah. Okay. So I went to bed at lunch, which I'm sure a lot of Aussie fans would have been the same. Steve Smith had that really accentuated trigger movement back and across. Did that continue for the whole innings?
I didn't notice as much after lunch. I think potentially the movement died down a little bit. The sun came out after lunch. The pitch got a bit better for batting, and Australia were able to add 123 runs in that second session for the loss of just one wicket, and that was Smith, who was out for 66. But they scored quite quickly after lunch. Him and Webster put on 50 runs in 78 balls, got the innings moving, and without that sort of fast start from Smith and then eventually Bo Webster as well, Australia could have been looking at a total of around 120, 130.
I'm just looking at the scorecard now. Webster's strike rate was 78 from 92 balls. So good going in his first knock at Lord's. What was the best bowling spell of the day there, Jack?
Kahiso Rabada's right up there with a 5-wicket haul. He's second in 2 matches at Lord's. Ironically, he's now got himself on both the home on a board and the away change rooms on a board, because South Africa being the top ranked team. But I think the best spell has to go to Mitchell Starc, like 2 for 10 from 7 overs. It easily could have been more, and we'll get to this a little bit later with one of your other dot points, but he could have easily had a few more wickets in that sort of opening spell where he had 2 for 10 from 7 overs. So he really got Australia back in the contest late on day one.
Well, let's keep going then. I've just looked at your notes. What was the blunder or the clanger that sort of left everybody thinking, oh, what could have been?
Yeah, it was unfortunately a few overs after Starc got that initial breakthrough. In his third over, could have had a second. Leanne Mulder dropped by Carey. Just sort of didn't really look like he got a glove on it. Looked like it surprised him a little bit. Got a bit sort of tangled up in his footwork, and it hit him in the chest. So Mulder's gone for a big sort of booming drive, caught the outside edge, and it kind of rose a little bit towards Carey, but he just wasn't in a great position to take the catch, and it sort of hit him on the chest, and the ball sort of spilled onto the ground. So, fortunately for Australia, it didn't cost them too much in the end. Mulder was out, a few overs later when Cummins was able to get him out. But if you had had Temba Bavuma coming in that early in the innings, who knows what could have happened.
Well, yeah, and just looking at that scorecard now, Mulder bowled by Cummins and then Stubbs bowled by Hazelwood. Any seeds in there to talk about, or were they both chop-ons as well?
No, the Cummins one was a definite beauty. Pitched outside off, nipped back in, took the middle and off stump. That was a ripping delivery. And Mulder's innings was described on commentary as a bit of a nothing innings because he got off the mark first ball and then took another 35 balls to score his next run. So he really stalled
Wow.
any momentum South Africa had from their bowling innings. That knock just put it all back in Australia's favour.
Now, last time Australia were at Lords, it was the loudest chorus of boos we've heard from 20,000 old white men in history. Was there any controversy today, Jack?
No crowd controversy. I must say the crowd, I think, seemed like it was on Australia's favour because it was a little bit loud. You might have heard it on the broadcast while you were watching in the opening session, Josh. But the cheers for South African wickets were quite loud. But then when Mitch Starc got that opening wicket in the first over, I reckon it topped whatever South Africa could provide. So all the talk leading in was the English fans are going to be supporting the South Africans, and the South Africans will travel because it's a bit closer. But I think there's a lot of Aussies in the UK and especially in London who have turned out on the opening day. But yeah, to your point, the controversy, I think there was a non-review of Bo Webster when he was on 8. So he survived an LBW appeal that South Africa did review, and it was
Right.
umpire's call clipping the top of the leg stumps. So he got away with that one. But a couple of overs later, he sort of played at one that nipped back. The Proteas thought he might have hit it. The ball sort of went out to cover. There's two noises there. So they opted not to review. But unfortunately for them, TV replays a couple of overs later showed that there was 3 reds and he would have been on his way for 8 at that stage.
Wow, okay. Big turning point in the game, perhaps. Just looking as well, Steve Smith, Aidan Markram got him out. What happened there?
Yes, he said in the post-match, post-play presser that he couldn't quite fathom how it happened. Bit of a master stroke from Temba Bavuma, really. Brought Markram on for an over. He threw one outside the off stump, and Steve Smith just couldn't resist going for the big booming drive. It caught the edge, and Marco Jansen just managed to hang on to it. It flew quite quickly. I think Marco was at slip. Marco was at slip because Markram was bowling. Markram's their usual slipper. Got it once in the left hand, once in the right hand, and then finally hung on to it. And the TV replays of Temba Bavuma at mid-wicket during that, it was a bit like, yeah.
He's a bit like Cameron Green or Bo Webster, Marco Jansen. He's a great person to have in that cordon because of his long reach. He's got a massive wingspan, doesn't he? So that was obviously unexpected. Any other moments from the day that you just did not see coming?
I think bowling first. All the talk leading was the pitch was quite dry. It'd be quite a good batting surface. But South Africa just backed their pace attack in the end, and it paid dividends. I don't think anyone expected 14 wickets to fall on day one. The pitch certainly offered a little bit during the morning session when there was overcast skies, but yeah, I don't think there was as much in it as what the batting made out or what the scores made out. But yeah, I guess Steve Smith said after play that Australia would have batted first, so that's how they were thinking. So I think South Africa bowling first was a little bit unexpected, but paid off for him in the end.
Yeah, you'd have to probably say the right call in the end, bowling a team out on the first day. That's the win if you bowl first. Now, Jack, we've spoken about the crowd. Any celebrities or big names that you spotted today?
Oh, yes, there certainly was. Big cricket lover as well. Big Ange Postecoglou was in town. I think last time Australia played at Lords in a test match, he was here as well. And you actually got the exclusive interview with him after he was just signed as Tottenham Hotspur manager.
That's right. Yeah, that was at the start of it. I think that may have even made it onto the Unplayable podcast at the time. So you can go back and check the archives if you want to see our little chat with Ange. Any other funny moments, Jack, from the day?
There was a little moment between Marnus Labuschagne, the new opening batter for Australia, and Steve Smith. There was a moment caught on the stump hot mic where Marnus wasn't too happy with the the Steve Smith's marking of centre, or not centre. I think it was outside leg because that exaggerated trigger movement. But I remember seeing it on the broadcast. Actually, it wasn't a very straight line. It was running at a bit of a diagonal. So I don't think Marnus was too happy with that, and he got caught saying "frick me" on the broadcast, and we thought that was a bit of a funny comment for a 30-year-old to be saying. Bit of a funny phrase, but yeah, that was probably the funniest moment. A little bit of a conversation between the two batters at the time.
It's going to be all eyes on Marnus opening the batting in the second innings, no doubt about that. Jack, before we let you go, Lords is well known for its amazing spreads at lunch and tea. What did they serve up for you in the press box today at lunch?
Yeah, it didn't disappoint, Josh. It was a strong start on day one. We have to make the most of it if we don't think this game's going to go the distance, the full 5 days. So we'll have to cash in tomorrow as well. It was a glazed lamb rump as a main course, and a bit of mushroom cheese tortellini as well. So very, very tasty,
Wow.
those two dishes indeed. And then a sponge tea cake actually for afternoon tea. So very rich. I couldn't quite get through it all, but yeah, certainly lived up to its billing on day one, the Lord's lunch.
That sounds right up your alley, mate. Thanks for the update. We'll check back in with you tomorrow. Remember to subscribe to the Unplayable Podcast so you don't miss a moment from this World Test Championship final. All your highlights, news, and scores are on cricket.com.au, and the CA Live app. We'll drop all those links in the description, especially the match wrap, which you'll want to get around.